good day everyone. Today we want to continue with our series of economics topics. Now for today's class, we want to look at another topic which is related to the last topic we treated, that was the cost theory. So for today's class, we want to look at the revenue concepts. The revenue concept. You know, in a producing firm, you have to determine your total cost of production, and not just that, you also have to determine the money you make from what you have produced. So that will lead us to what we call revenue concept, or we can also call it the theory of revenue concepts. Now, before we look at the concept of revenue, the first thing is we need to understand what revenue means. What is revenue? Revenue is an income. Revenue is the money that a firm generates after the sales of its output at a given price, or is the total amount of money that is earned by a firm after selling out its output at a current market price. So any money you see when you have produced is known as your revenue. Your revenue is not your gain, it is not your profit, it is just the income that it generates. So in this revenue, you have your profit, you have your expenses. So your expenses of your cost and your profit added together will give you your income. For example, let's say the total money that was spent to produce was $50. Are you getting it now? So when you calculate the total money you spent, which includes your fixed cost and your variable cost for a unit. So if you are selling this, what you have produced, you can't sell it for 15 naira. So you have to sell it above 15 naira. So there's an amount of money that will be added to this 15 naira. We call it the value added. So the value added is for the final goods. So when you add this value, you can say, okay, I want to sell this for $70. So this $70 is the money you earn after selling your output. So $70 is your revenue. So revenue is also the same thing as income. Are you getting it? So that's just the simple meaning of revenue. Now, what are the revenue concepts? Just like our cost concept, where we talk about the 7 cost concepts. Now for revenue, we have just 3 concepts for revenue. What are the 3 concepts of revenue? The first concept of revenue is called total revenue. We have the total revenue. The second concept is called the average revenue. The average revenue. And the third concept is known as the marginal revenue. The marginal revenue. So you can also call it total income, average income, and marginal income. So let us quickly explain these 3 concepts. Let's start with the first one, which is the total revenue. Giving this example. Now, if my total cost of production is 10,000 naira. This 10,000 naira is my total cost. Now, I sold my output for, let's say, 13,000 naira. Now, this 13,000 naira is my total revenue. How did I get my total revenue? My total revenue simply means one item, then, am I skipping here? So my total revenue is derived when I multiply the price of my product with the total quantity or units that I sold out. Are you getting it now? Not produced, but sold out. So if I sell everything out, the total quantity multiplied by the price of one. So what do I mean? Let's say I sold 1,000 units of, let's assume I sold 1,000 units of loaf of bread. Now, if I want to sell 1,000 units of loaf of bread, and the price of one bread costs 2,050 naira. If I'm to sell 1,000 units of bread and the price of one loaf of bread costs 2,050 naira. Now, how much will I earn? How much will I realize? How much will I generate after selling 1,000 units? So it simply means I will have to multiply 1,000 by what? 2,050 naira. So that will give me what? 250,000. That is 250,000 naira. It simply means if I'm to make an amount of money from the sales of what? 1,000, when one price is what? 250, I'm going to make 250,000 naira. So this 250,000 naira is my what? Total revenue. Is my total revenue. So how did I get my total revenue? My total revenue is derived when I multiply my price, that is my price per unit, not my total price, that is my price per unit, by the quantity I sold out. So TR, which is our total revenue, is expressed as what? P multiplied by what? By Q. P multiplied by Q. Now let's look at the next one. The next one is our average revenue or our average income. Now, if I sold 250,000, if I sold 1,000 units loaf of bread at 250,000 naira. Now, all things being equal, how much will be the price of one? Average is talking about what? One unit. Now, total revenue is the total amount of money I generate after selling a certain level of units of my output, or after the sales of a certain unit of my output. But in average revenue simply means the income or the revenue per unit I earned after selling my total what? Output. That is your total output, that is your total products. When you sell them out, the money you now earn from one unit, the money that is the price of what? Of one unit. So that means if it is the price of one unit, it simply means my average revenue, which is my AV, is equals to the what? To my price, because here is the total revenue, here is the quantity. So if I have to determine the price of one, that is not the cost. Now in this case it is the what? Price. There is a difference between cost and price. So in revenue we use price, while in theory of cost we use what? We use cost. Are you getting it now? There is something we call selling price and what? And cost price. Now these ones we don't use it under theory of cost and revenue. We only use them for finished product. So my selling price is for finished product. Are you getting it now? Because I'm not a producer. As a producer, if you are a producer, we call it revenue for a producer, while for a broker, a wholesaler, or maybe a retailer, we call it selling price. So from 250,000, I want to what? Determine the price of one. That will now give me what? 250,000 divided by what? 1,000 units. I'm still going to get what? 250. So that means my average revenue is equal to my price. Now how did I get my average revenue? That will now be what? My total revenue divided by my what? My quantity. Are you getting it now? So these are the formulas for TR and what? AR. Then the next one is my marginal revenue. What's my marginal revenue? My marginal revenue is the what? Is the additional income I earn or additional income I realize after selling extra units. So if I sell extra units, I increase my units. You know that when you have marginal cost, you utility to what? Marginal revenue. So if I add extra cost, that means I am going to produce extra units. So if I produce extra units, I will sell extra what? Units. So the money I make from selling extra units is called my what? My marginal revenue, which is expressed as what? Changes. And in this, whenever you see this sign in economics, it means delta. It is a Greek letter which means delta. What is delta? It simply means what? Changes. So you want to find the difference between your total revenue and your what? And your changes in quantity. So that means our MR is what? Changes in TR or changes in what? Quantity. And when you have the TR function, you can say your MR equals what? The TR over what? The Q. Are you getting it now? So these are my three concepts of what? Of revenue. Let us quickly illustrate the graph for each concept. So for our TR, we are going to have something like this. we have something like this. So it simply means that quantity and revenue varies in same what direction. So it simply means when the quantity increases, revenue increases. You see this point here is where you can make highest amount of what money. So at this point where you make highest amount of money, you should not produce any, you should not add additional what production, because if you do that, what happens to your revenue? It will fall. Why? Because this revenue curve is derived from what? From what they call TP, total what? Product. Total product. So what happens to total product will happen to your total revenue. Are you getting it now? So that means if your total product falls, that means your total revenue will also what? Will also fall. Is that clear? So same thing, we have our what? Our marginal revenue. What is our marginal revenue? Our marginal revenue is something like this. This is our MR. So it simply means this is where it starts. So this is the point of origin. Now your MR has to do to change this. Now, what am I trying to explain? You see, one thing about revenue is that it is as a result of the effect on what? On output. Anything that happens to your what? To your output. You know that we have what we call concept of output. What are the concepts of output? We have TP, which is total product. We have AP, which is average product, and we have what? MP, which is what? Marginal product. So anything that happens to this three will also happen to your what? Your TR, your AR, and your what? And your MR. Do you understand that? Because your product is your output. So when you sell your product, you earn what? Income. So if your product is low, your TR is low. But one thing is, your product is your finished goods that are not yet sold. When you sold them, so the money you make from your product are your what? Income. So if it is total product, you are making what? Total income. Average product, that is one. When you sell one, you are making average revenue. Then additional what? Additional output you produce, then you are making additional what? Income. So that's why our MP is downward sloping. Most times it is in form of a linear curve. So our MR must also what? Slope downward. Now for our average revenue, our average revenue, we can represent it in two ways. We can represent our average revenue in two ways. So remember that our average revenue is equals to what? Is equals to price. That means we can say our total revenue is equals to, instead of saying price times quantity, we can say what? Average revenue multiplied by what? Quantity, because average revenue is equals to what? Is equals to price. Are you getting it now? So if we say TR equals to AR, that means our AR equals to what? TR over what? Quantity, right? So we can also say our average revenue equals to what is TR. Our TR is expressed as what? Price multiplied by what? Quantity divided by what? Quantity. So if this cancels this, our average revenue will also be equals to our what? Our price. And based on my explanation, our average revenue is the same thing as our what? Our price. So our average revenue can be something like this. So we can have our average revenue like this. Are you getting it now? So it simply means here your average revenue is what? Is constant. Is what? Is constant. Is fixed. Are you getting it now? So is either your average revenue is parallel to the what? To the quantity axis. This is the quantity axis and this is revenue axis. Or you have your average revenue. You have it like this. You can have your average revenue like this. So it simply means that here your average revenue is what? Downward sloping. So the slope of this average revenue simply means it can be altered. It can be what? Altered by producers. But in this case, producers cannot alter or influence their average income. But in this case, producers can alter or influence their average income. That is why it is downward sloping. So that means for this particular graph, this average revenue exists when a firm is operating in a perfect market. In a perfect market. Why for this? It simply means the firm is operating in an imperfect market. Or we can also say the firm is a monopolistic firm. It's a monopolistic firm. So that's how we represent our average revenue. So independently, if you are to draw our MR become like this. This is our MR. So what does that mean? It simply means our MR will fall. As it is downward sloping. And if your MR is like this, it simply means your AR is also going this direction. It simply means your MP is also going in the same direction. Yeah. Now why? It is because when your total product is as a result of the relationship between the marginal product and the total product. There are three relationships that exist between the total product and the marginal product. The first relationship is that if your total product increases, your marginal product will fall. But there is an exception, because if your total product increases at a decreasing rate, your marginal product will rise. But if your total product increase at a decreasing rate, your marginal product will fall. But if your total product increases at an increasing rate, your MP will rise. So we just say this increase but at a decreasing rate, so MP will fall. Now if your total product is at the peak, where TR is at the peak, that means your TP is also at the peak. What happens to your marginal product? Your marginal product becomes zero. So this is the marginal product. It becomes 0. But if your total product begins to fall, now at this point it is falling. Your marginal product, which is your MR from here, becomes negative. So when it extends beyond the x-axis, it becomes negative. So your marginal product becomes negative. So same thing applicable to your MR and your TR. So if TR increases at an increasing rate, your MR will increase. But if your TR increases at a decreasing rate, your MR will fall, right? So if your TR is at the maximum, that is maximum, the highest point, your MR becomes 0. But if your TR begins to fall, your MR becomes negative. You understand that? So same thing, we can also say your average revenue is equal to your marginal revenue. So from here, you can say your average revenue is equal to your marginal revenue. So if you have your marginal revenue like this, are you getting it now? It simply means you are still dealing with an imperfect market, right? But if you have your marginal revenue in this form like this, simply means you are dealing with a perfect market. So that means your average revenue can also become your marginal revenue. How? Now, if I say your marginal revenue is your is your changes in TR over changes in quantity. So your marginal revenue is our changes in TR. What is TR? Price times quantity. So price times quantity, right? So over changes in in Q, right? So if this cancel this, so MR equals equals price. And what is your price? Your price is also the same as your AR. So your marginal revenue is also the same as your price, only in this in this condition, when you have your graph, that is your average revenue curve, as a parallel line to the quantity axis. So that is that on revenue concept. So once we have been able to determine the analysis of this revenue and the cost concept, then we will now look at the primary goal of a producer. And the primary goal of a producer is to maximize profit. So we want to talk about profit maximization. We want to look at profit what? Maximization. What is the relation between cost and revenue? The relation between cost and revenue is what? Is profit. It's not profit, then it is what? Loss. So let's look at profit maximization. So we want to think about profit maximization. What is profit? In economics, profit simply refers to the excess of total revenue over total cost of a producer. Profit is the what? Excess of total revenue over what? Total cost. It simply means a condition whereby the total revenue of a firm is greater than its total cost, then the firm is said to be what? To be making profits. Are you getting it? So it simply means the positive difference between what? Total revenue and total cost. So you can also say profit is the what? Positive difference between TR and what? TC. So when we remove our total cost from our total revenue, we are going to be left with what? With profit. So we use something like pi to represent profit. So the notation for profit here is what? Is pi. So this is profit. So profit, the formula will now be expressed as what? Pi, which is profit, equals what? TR minus what? Minus TC. So I said profit is the excess of what? Total revenue over total cost. Now you see, this is the first condition for what? For profit. First condition for profit. Now, when you look at this condition, it simply means when you have your TR and your TC, when you subtract TC from TR, you get your what? You get your profit. However, this does not actually mean profit is what? Maximize. When we say maximization, maximization simply means you enjoy the highest what? Benefit. Are you getting it now? So the highest benefit in terms of rationality for a producer is when the total revenue and the what? The total cost has the highest positive what? Differences, because this TR minus TC could be at a particular quantity. Let's assume this is at quantity what? 3. When you produce 3 units, are you getting it now? When you minus TR from TC, maybe your profit was just 2,500 naira. So at quantity 4 units, when you produce also you remove your TC from your TR, your profit increased to what? 2,570. So what does that mean? As your profit increase, your what? As your quantity increase, your profit will also what? Increase. So it simply means profit is also a function of what? Quantity. Profit is a function of quantity. Revenue is a function of quantity. For you to increase your revenue, your quantity must increase. Same thing, cost is a function of what? Quantity. That is, if you want to increase your cost, if you increase your quantity, then your cost has to what? Has to increase. So these 3 variables are all function of what? Quantity. Now, how can I determine the output that will maximize highest profits? Because there are some outputs that what? Will maximize loss. When you continue to increase, it will get to a point whereby you are going to what? Make loss. So in order for you to determine the output where you maximize the highest profit, we will now look at this. Look at this condition. Let's bring out this condition. You say profit equals what? TR minus what? Minus TC. Remember that profit is a function of quantity, TR is a function of quantity, TC is a function of quantity. So what do? We will determine the first order condition of this equation. What do we have in the first order condition? That is the first order what? Derivative. And when you, from the law of the first order derivative, from the law of the first order, the derivative of all this must be equals to what? Equals to 0, right? So we differentiate them in respect to their what? Independent variable, which is what? Q. So we say what? The profits, the Q equals what? The TR over what? The Q, then minus what? The TC minus the TC, the what? The Q. So this will equals what? 0, right? So it simply means the profit, the Q equals the TR over the Q is your what? Is your MR. Remember I told that your MR is your changes in TR over what? Changes in quantity. So the TR over the Q is your MR, then minus what? The TCDQ. So the TCDQ is your what? Your MC equals what? 0. So the profit, that's the pi the Q, is equals MR minus MC equals what? 0. So because this is equals to this, they will now bring this out as what? MR minus what? MC equals what? 0. Are you getting it now? So what do? We what? We take MC to the other side so that we can have what? An equation. So we say what? MR, then this one come here, change to what? MC. So it simply means for us to what? To maximize profit, our what? MR must be equals to our what? Our MC. Now this MR minus equals MC, we do not use it to determine profit, but we use it to determine the quantity that will maximize highest profit. So we call it profit maximizing output. To determine your profit maximizing output, your MR equals what? MC. So if your MR equals MC, there's what you call what? Equimarginal what? Principle. Disequilibrium will occur when MR is greater than MC, and as well the MR can also be what? Lesser than MC. So if any of this happens, now what advice can we give to a producer or a firm? Don't forget that for a firm to be at equilibrium points where profit is maximized at a given quantity, the MR and the MC must be what? Equal. So when MR is now greater than MC, or MR is what? Lesser than MC, what must a firm, what must it what action must it take? Now the first thing is that if MR is greater than what? MC, a firm should increase its production. Yes, a firm should increase its what? Its quantity to a point that, remember that when the quantity increases, are you getting it now? The marginal cost will also what? Increase. So if the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, that means a firm should what? Increase its quantity or its units of production to a point whereby the MC will continue to increase. So it will not get to a point where the MC will be equal to what? The MR. So for this case, a firm should what? Increase its what? Its output units. For this case now, a firm should reduce, yes, a firm should reduce its quantity to a point where the MC will fall, and when the MC is what? Falling, it will get to a point whereby it will equal to what? MR. So whenever MR is greater than MC, it simply means the firm should what? Reduce its what? Output units. Are you getting it now? So MR greater than MC, there should be what? An increase in output to a point where MC what? Will increase, where it will equal to what? MR. And when MR is lesser than MC, a firm should reduce its what? Output unit to a point where MC what? Will decrease to a point where it will be equal to what? MR. So when they are equal, then a firm can now what? Maximize its output. So given these two conditions where profit is TR minus TC, and where what? MR equals what? MC. Now for this condition now, this is the condition where a firm makes what we call total profit. Total profit. So this is the formula for total profit. Why do you say total profit? Because it is having what? Total revenue and total cost. But when a firm's profit is divided by the quantity, then the total profit of the firm, when it's divided by the quantity, then the firm's, this gives what? The firm's average what? Average profits. So the average profit of the firm will now be what? Average revenue minus what? Average cost. So another condition to determine profit is when average revenue is greater than what? Average cost. So for this one, we get the firm's what? Average profit. Average profit. So these are some of the conditions. Then another condition for profit maximization is when the slope of the MC is greater than the slope of FR. Now another condition for profit is when what? The slope of what? MC is greater than what? The slope of MR. Slope of MC must be greater than. Now it is this slope of MC that serves as the second order condition which fulfill the profit what? Maximization for the firm. This simply means your what? Your MC complement, which is your slope of MC, and which is also the what? The second order condition of your what? Of your TR, which is equals to what? D squared TC. TR, this is TC I mean. So D squared TC over what? DQ square. What does it mean? It simply means after the first order derivative, you derive it again. So you are going to determine the what? The MC what? Complement, which is the slope of MC. So the slope of MC must be greater than what? The slope of what? MR, which is equals to what? D squared TR over what? DQ square. So this is another condition. So this one is what we fulfill the profit what? Maximization of the what? Of the firm. No, now let us illustrate this using graphs. Now it is the understanding of this graph that will now lead us to our market structure for the perfect competition and for other type of what? Markets. So when we say profit now, when we talk about profit, so let's look at using, so in this case now we are going to be using AR and what? And AC, that's our average revenue, and our what? Average what? Cost. So also we are going to be using our what? Our marginal cost and our what? Marginal revenue. So there must be what? There must be equal. There must be equal. So at this point we say, yeah, remember that this is our what? Our price, which is our what? Our average revenue. So if this is our price and our average revenue, which is AR, then I have my average cost. Remember that our average cost is in what? Is in U shape. So if I have something like this, this is my what? My average cost. Now remember that we are taking, we are referencing, we are using the minimum point of the what? Of the average cost as our focus. So the minimum point of the average cost, when it is what? Lesser or below the line of the average revenue, then it simply means the average revenue is greater than what? The average cost. So this graph now represents what? Profits. This graph represents what? Profit. So the minimum point of the what? AC is lesser than what? The AR. Are you getting it now? But if you look at these 2 points where they meet, these are the 2 points where they meet, you notice that at this point, that's the highest output, of which the minimum point of the what? Average cost must be below the what? The line of the what? Of the average revenue. So the point where they meet here is the break-even point. Break-even point. And this is another what? Break-even point. But because we are dealing with the minimum, you don't consider the two break-even, because it is this that occur when your quantity is very, very what? Limited. So the more you increase your quantity, the more this falls to this lowest point. So if you continue to increase it again due to either law of returns to scale or diminishing returns, your average cost will rise. So when it rises to a point whereby it will touch the what? The AR. So there will be break even, and later on it rises above the break even point. You understand that? Now what is break even? We are still going to talk about the break even point when we get to market, when we want to discuss market structure. But let me just make you understand. Let me just tell you the meaning of break even. Now, a break-even point is a point where the total revenue equals to the total cost, or where the average revenue equals to the what? Average cost. So when there is break-even, it simply means a firm is making what we call a normal what? A normal profit. So the reason why we say break-even is because this and this, they are both what? They are both equal. Now, to show that it is a break-even, then the minimum point of the what? Of the average cost will rest directly on the average what? Revenue. So here now, there is what? There is break-even. So this is the break-even of the firm. This point is the break-even point, right? This is the break-even point. This one is for the profit. So this portion is a profit. This portion is profit. Here is what? Is a break-even. Then remember that whenever your average cost is not as a firm, it's not every time you make profit. There are some cases whereby loss may occur. Yes, loss may occur. So if there is loss, the loss of a firm is when the average cost is greater than the average revenue. So when we want to represent the loss of a firm using a graph, we have the average revenue, and we have the average cost. So in this case, the minimum point of the average cost will rise above the average revenue. So this is the loss of a firm, this is the break even, and this is one that shows the profit of the firm. The profit of the firm. So this is what we call, these are the analysis for the profit maximization. So let us quickly solve few questions on this profit, which covers cost and revenue. All right, so welcome back. I have these 3 questions. So for these 3 questions, we want to determine our profit maximization. So when it comes to profit maximization, we have a way we normally solve our questions. Now there is a particular pattern of questions whereby you will give in your TR, your TC, your MR, your TR. Sorry, you'll be giving your TR, your TC, your MR, your MC. You'll be giving your quantity. Then from the table, you can answer your questions. So, but I believe that once you can solve this, then you will not have problem with those ones. So let's start with the first question. So in the first question, it says, suppose a monopolist total revenue and total cost function are given as P. Now don't remember that this P is is the price. P equals 10 minus 3Q, and TC, which is a function of Q, equals 2Q square. 2Q square. Now it says A, determine the output level that will maximize profit. Then B, determine the maximum profit. Question C, determine the price per unit at the profit maximizing output. Then question D says test for the second order fulfillment. So let us quickly solve for the first questions, A to D. So let's look at the solutions to the first question. So the first one, 1A, they said determine the output level that maximize profit. Now when you come across this type of question, you have to look at the condition. What condition bind this question? The condition that bind this question is that for us to determine the output that maximize profit, that is for us to determine the output whereby a firm can realize highest profit or gain, then remember that our MC must be equals to our MR, using the equimarginal principle. So what is the condition? We say profit maximizing output condition. So this is the profit maximizing output what? Condition. So MC equals MR. Now you write out your MC. What is your MC? Your MC is what? Your changes in what? TC over what? Changes in what? Q, right? And your MR is your what? Is your changes in TR over what? Changes in Q. Now, let us find our what? TC. What is our TC? Our TC is equals to what? 2Q squared. So you bring out your TC function. Your TC is a function of what? 2Q squared. Remember that under the theory of cost, 2Q squared is not a linear function. This is the quadratic function of what? Of a cost. And this function, you will notice that we do not have any fixed or constant what? Variable. So it simply means this cost is a what? Is a long run cost function. This is a long run cost function. So it simply means this firm, this monopolist is not a firm, is a monopolist. A firm is different from what? A monopolist. You get that now? So this monopolist is operating in the long run. So let us find the TC, the Q. We want to what? Differentiate. So when we differentiate the TC, the Q, will give us what? Using the what? General principle, that's 2 times 2 is 4. Then Q raised by what? 2 minus 1 is what? 1. So that means we are going to have what? 4Q. Are you getting it now? The derivative of 2Q squared is what? 4Q. So if the TC, the Q is 4Q, that means our MC is our what? Our 4Q. Right? Now let's solve for our MR. Let's just bring out the TR. TR first. So TR equals what? Do we have the function for TR? They didn't give us function for TRB. So we have to write out the formula for TR. The formula for TR is what? Price times what? Quantity, right? So TR, which is price times quantity. So we have price function. The price function is given as what? 10 minus 3Q. So we write that out. 10 minus what? 3Q. So put it in a bracket, then multiply by what? Multiply by Q. So our TR will give us 10 multiply by Q will give us 10Q, then minus 3Q multiply by Q will give us minus 3Q squared. Now this is our TR function. So we can now get our what? Our DTR, the Q. So the TR, the Q is going to give us, this is a linear, so that's the coefficient of the what? Variable, which is 10. Then minus what? 2 times 3 is 6. Then Q raised by 1. 2 minus 1 is what? 1, which is the same thing as what? 10 minus 6Q. So therefore, our MR equals what? 10 minus what? 6Q. So we have gotten our what? MC and our MR. So the next thing we need to do is to equate the two, concepts together. MC equals MR. So if MC equals MR, so we say we recall MC equals what? MR. What's our MC? Our MC is 4Q equals MR. Our MR is 10 minus what? 6Q. So this will give us what? 4Q. This will come here to plus 6 what? Q. Let me make it in block form. So 4Q plus 6Q equals what? Equals 10. Now 4Q plus 6Q will give us what? 10Q equals what? 10. So we divide both sides by what? 10. Are you getting it now? So the value for our Q is what? 1 unit. What does that mean? It simply means the quantity that this monopolist can produce to achieve the highest profit is what? Just 1 unit. Just 1 unit. Anyone below or above 1 unit will what? Will affect our profit. So our quantity is 1 unit. Now, the next question says, determine the maximum profit. What is maximum profit? Maximum profit is total profit. But if they say determine average profit, that is what? Per unit profit. So to get our maximum profit, That's 1B. To get our maximum profit, we say what? TR minus what? Minus our TC. So our profit will be what? TR minus TC. What's our TR? Our TR is 10Q minus 3Q square, right? Then minus our TC. What's our TC? Our TC is 2Q square. 2Q square. So our profit, that means anywhere we see what? Q, we have to substitute with 1 unit. So 10 multiplied by 1 minus 3 multiplied by 1 square minus 2 multiplied by 1 square. So our profit is going to give us 10 multiplied by 1, 10 minus 3 multiplied by 1, 3 minus 1 raised to power 2 is 1, so multiplied by 2, that's 2. So our profit give us 10 minus 3 minus 2, which is what? 5. So our profit is what? Is 5. Our profit is what? 5. Our profit is 5. Now, next question says, determine the price per unit at the profit maximizing output. So let us get the price. What is the price? The price function is what? 10 minus what? 3Q. So 10 minus 3Q. So our price is going to give us 10 minus 3Q. What is the Q? Q is what? 1. So 10 minus 3. And that's going to give us what? 7. So our price per unit is what? Is 7. Our price per unit is 7. Then the last question says, test for the second order what? Fulfillment. So how do we test for the second order fulfillment? Now to fulfill this condition, we say what? The slope of MC must be greater than what? The slope of MR. So the MC is what? 4Q. So MC is 4Q. So the slope of MC, which is what? The square TC over what? DQ square is going to give us what? 4. So the slope of MC is what? Is 4. Then the slope of MR is what? What is the value for MR? Okay, MR function is 10 minus 6Q. 10 minus 6Q. So our MR complement is going to give us, this is 0, this is a constant, so it's going to give us what? Minus 6. Minus 6. So this is 4 and this is minus 6. So we know that 4 is greater than what? Minus 6. So that means to fulfill this profit condition, the slope of MC, which is 4, is greater than what? Minus what? Minus 6. So the condition, the second order testing fulfills the profit condition. So this is our solution to the first question. Now let us look at the second question. Let's quickly solve the second question. So for the second question, now let's look at the second question. Now we have our TC function, that's our total cost function, as 30x plus 200, and our price as 500 minus 0.5x. So they said calculate the quantity where profit is maximized. Then the second question says determine the profit per unit. Determine the profit, that's the per unit profit. So when we look at the cost function, this x here beside this 30 is our quantity. It represents our quantity. So it's not every time they will use Q to represent quantity. So just know that this x here is our what? Our quantity. This x for the price function is also our what? Our quantity. So using the same what? The same condition. So we want to get the quantity where profit is maximized. So don't forget that to maximize profit, MC equals what? MR. So we have to find our what? MC, which is what? Changes in TC over what? Changes in quantity. But in this case, since our quantity is given as X, so we just say what? Changes in X, right? So let's find our TC. Okay, let's write out our TC. That's our TC is 30x then plus 200. Our TC is 30x plus 200. So what do we do next? We find our MC. So our MC will be what? 30 plus 0. This is 0, Abby. So this is 30. So our MC is what? 30. Our MC is 30. Let's write out our MR. Our MR is our changes in TR over what? Changes in X. What's our TR? We don't have our TR, we only have the price. So what do? Our TR is price times quantity. Remember that in this case, quantity is what? Represented as X. So it will be what? The price multiplied by X. So our TR is going to give us price, which is expressed as 500 minus 0.5x. 500 minus 0.5x. Put them in a bracket, then multiply by what? By X. Put this in a bracket as well to show that it's multiplying each other. So our TR will give us X times 500. We're going to have 500x minus 0.5 what? X square. So to get our MR, that will give us 500 minus 2 multiplied by 0.5. It simply means 0.5 times what? 2. And that will give us 1, which is 1x. So we are going to have what? X is per 1. This is 2 minus 1 give us 1. So the derivative of this one is what? 500x. So you have been able to get our what? Our MC and MR. So when we equate both, we are going to have what? 30 equals 500 minus what? X. So let us collect like terms. So let this minus x come to this side. That will be x equals 500 minus what? Minus 30. Our s is going to give us 500 minus 30 is going to give us what? 470. So the quantity is what? 470 units. The quantity where profit is maximized is at 470 units of what? Production. 470 units of production. Let's look at the next question on number 2. Determine the profit per unit. Determine the profit per unit. That's 2b. So the profit per unit, or you say the per unit profit, the per unit profit is what? Our TR minus our TCRB, then divided by what? Divided by quantity, right? Because per unit profit is when you say, per unit profit is when your profit is divided by what? Quantity. So definitely you have to divide this by quantity, divide this by quantity. Because when you divide this by quantity, you have AS, you have AR, and when you divide your TC by quantity, you have your what? Your AC. So our per unit profit will give us our TR minus our TC. What's our TR? Our TR. This is our TR. So our TR is, so our TR is what? 500x. Remember that our x is what? 470. So 500 multiplied by 470 minus 0.5 x squared. That's 470 square. Abi? Then minus TC. What's our TC? Our TC is what? 30x. What's our x? That's 470. Then plus, but this plus is going to change to what? Minus, because plus times minus will give us what? Minus. So minus what? 200. So everything is going to divide what? 470, which is the quantity. Remember that the quantity is also the same thing as what? Our x. So Let's now find our per unit profit. So our profit is going to give us 500 multiplied by what? 470. So here we have what? 235,000. Then minus 0.5. 470 times 470. 220,900. Abi? So then minus 30 times 470. So here we have 30 times 470, we have what? 14,000 and what? 100. Then minus 200. So over what? 470. So our per unit profit is going to give us 235,000 minus 0.5. So here we have 110,450. Right? So that's then minus 14,100, then minus 200. So everything is going to divide our what? It's going to divide 470. So profit equals 110,250 Abi over 470. So this will give us, this is going to give us 234, 34.574. So that's our profit. This is our per unit profit. Now let's look at the third and the last question. Now let's read it out. A firm has the following total revenue and total cost functions. The total revenue function is 200Q minus 4Q squared. The total cost function is 60 plus 40Q. Then they said find the profit of the firm. Find the profit of the firm. Find the profit of the firm. So for this number 3 question, we only have one question as a subset. Find the profit of the firm. Now, apart from the normal method, apart from the method I use for the first 2 questions, which is apart from the method I use for the first 2 questions, where I said MC equals what? MR. There is another way I can solve my question when dealing with profit maximization. If I want to get the quantity that maximizes profit, remember that before you can get your quantity, you need to know the value of your what? Of your quantity. Before you can get your profit, you need to know the value of your what? Quantity. So it is from your quantity that you determine your profit. So if they say you should determine profit or you should find profit, first thing is know your, except maybe in that question you already have your quantity that maximize profit, then you can get your profit. So another way we can solve this is to say profit equals what? TR minus what? Minus TC. The question can come in different form. In your function, they may not give you the total cost function. They might give you your average cost function. So you just have to multiply your average cost by what? Quantity to get your total cost. So depending on the question you have. Now if I want to get this, remember how we derive our MC equals MR. We differentiate everything in respect to what? Q equating to what? 0. So we have to differentiate everything here in respect to Q equating to what? 0. But first thing first, let us write out the function of these 2 concepts. Then we say profit equals TR. So what is TR? TR is 200Q minus 4Q squared. Minus 4Q squared. Then minus, what is TC? TC is 60 plus 40Q. From the question we have 60 plus 40Q. So let us put this in a what? In a bracket, so that this side we multiply everything inside the what? Bracket. So we have 200Q minus 4Q squared, and we have 60 plus what? 40Q as our TC. So that means our profit equals 200Q minus 4Q squared minus 60, then minus times plus will give us minus what? 40Q. The sign we have to what? Change. So let's find the common ones. Our profit will now give us what? 200 minus what? 40Q. That's 160Q. Then minus 4Q squared minus what? 60. Right? So now let's differentiate everything in respect to what? Q. So we have to equate to what? 0, because it is the first order what? Condition. Are you getting it now? Or we can also say turning point. We can call it what? Turning point. Turning point. Are you getting this now? So which simply means the profit, the Q, or the pi dq equals to what? 0 at turning point. At what? Turning point. In economics, the turning point is also called the point of what? Inflection. Point of what? Inflection. So the point of inflection simply means when a line changes from convex to concave, or it changes from what? A concave to what? To convex. So the point where it changes is the point of inflection or turning point. So at every turning point, it's just like you are starting over, and it is always equals to what? 0. Always equals to 0. Alright, let's continue. So we say this equals to this will give us 0, Abi. So that means the pi dq for 160 is going to give us what? For 160q, sorry, is going to give us 160. The pi dq for 160 is going to give us, sorry, the pi dq for 160q, we are going to have 160, then minus what? 4q square. So 2 times 4 will give us 8, then we have q, right? Because 2 minus 1 is what? 1. So q raised to power 1 will give you what? Q. Then minus 60. This is a constant. In law of derivative, or in law of differentiation, the derivative of a constant is always 0. So this is what? 0. Just let us just add it. So we say minus 0. So we equals to what? 0, which is the turning point. So equals to 0. Now let us collect like terms. So we have 160 equals, this will come here. It becomes what? It will become 8q, right? So we have to divide both sides by 8. Divide both sides by 8. So q is equals to what? 8 divided by what? 8 in 16 is going to give us what? 2. So we have 20. So 20 what? Units. So the quantity that maximizes profit is 20 units. Now we have not gotten our profit. We only get the quantity that can lead us to our profit. So let us find the profit. So the profit of the firm. So the profit, recall that the profit is what? TR minus what? Minus TC. So the profit equals TR. What is TR? I think this is the TR function. So TR is 200 Q. What is Q? Q is 20. So anywhere we see Q, we put what? 20. Then minus 4Q square. So that is 420 what? Square. Then minus 60 minus 40 what? Q. That's 40 multiplied by 20. So our profit will give us 200 times 20. 2 times 2 is 4. So add these 3 zeros. Then minus 4 times 20, that is 80. Okay, this is 20 square. So we have to find the square of 20. The square of 20 is 400. So 400 times what? 4 is going to give us what? 1,600. 400 multiplied by 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 0, 0. So that's 1,600. Then minus what? 60 minus 4 times 2 is 8. Then add the 2 zeros. So that's 40 times 20 is what? 800. So our profit is going to give us, now going to give us 4,000 minus 16 minus 60 minus 800. So our profit is going to give us 1,540. So the value for our profit from this question is 1,540. So this is the end of today's class. I hope you are able to learn something.